Hello, welcome. It is time, it is the day. I am so excited about this nonsense. Whew, I'll give it a couple minutes. But the DNC autopsy just dropped. So we're gonna take a look and see what the hell this was about. Oh my god, this is the autopsy report that was commissioned after the election, okay? Because they're like, hey, why did he lose? Let's like figure out why, do a postmortem, right? And they got someone who's not involved in the campaign and the DNC establishment really to like go take a look at this. They wanted like someone who's not like in it to be doing this, right? So they wanted an unbiased perspective. So they got somebody to make the report. It dropped. It is embarrassing. It's hilarious. There's such an obvious reason why they hid it. It's not the reason people thought. It's not a conspiracy. It's just because they commissioned someone else to make it for them, and what they got is nonsense. So let's take a look at the report. This is one of the many memes I've made about the report. Let's take a look at the DNC autopsy that finally dropped. This was commissioned after the 2024 election to, give a good neutral look, hard look at why we won, why we lost. And now it's being memed to hell and back. There's an obvious reason they didn't release it. Just because it was bad, unfinished, rushed, and useless. But instead of calling out the guy whose fault it was, he made this, instead the Democratic Party has quietly ran cover for this for months and eaten all of the negative PR, which is embarrassing and for no reason, and in fact is a better case study of where and why and how the Democratic Party has failed to build trust than anything in the autopsy itself. Here's nothing's been posted. Another meme, all-time classic. This is the kind of style to expect, okay? So brace yourselves. Yeah, Ken Martin hired this guy. He's apparently like a confidant of Ken Martin. Like he hired somebody he knew and trusted who has not actually worked on a presidential campaign since John Kerry in 2004, which is embarrassing. This is one of the many great memes. Mario, the idea versus Mario the man. Everyone knows Mario is cool as fuck. But who knows what he's thinking? Who knows why he crushes turtles? And why do we think about him as fondly as we think of the mythical, non-existent Dr. Pepper, perchance? I believe it was Kant who said, experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is more intellectual play. Mario exhibits experience by crushing turts all day, but he exhibits theory by stating what to go. Keep it up, baby. When Mario leaves his place of safety to stomp a turdy, he knows that he may die. And yet, for a man who can purchase lives with money, a life becomes a mere store of value, a tax that can be paid for, much as a rich man feels any law with a fine is a price. We think of Mario as a hero, but he is simply a one percenter of a more privileged variety, the life kind, perchance. I joke, but let's take a look at the actual report. Okay, this is page 1 of the actual report. You ready? They didn't finish it. He didn't finish it. Disclaimer, this document reflects the views of the author, not the DNC. The DNC was not provided with the underlying sourcing, interviews, or supporting data for many of the assertions contained herein, and therefore cannot independently verify the claims presented. Title page. Build to win, build to last. They didn't bother finishing it, okay? This is how bad it is. Now, some interesting things here, okay? This guy was tasked with going around and interviewing and talking to all the people involved, right? Each of those people is going to have a limited perspective. Even this week, we've been looking at on stream some different like articles and perspectives on like people's own personal postmortems based on how they're positioned and what their experience is. Like my perspective as like a media and designer gal. Other people are like on the ground organizers. Everyone's going to have different things to say. And part of what you take into account is not there's one single objective right or wrong answer. It's there are different perspectives. You have to take with a grain of salt every individual's perspective, what they're going to be more accurate on and less accurate on, and everyone's going to have different values. That context is important. So stripping the actual interviews and data out of this, so you don't know what claims are coming from which people, makes this so much less useful because we don't actually know what to trust or not. And a lot of the data and substantiation for all of this is just not present. But already off to a fantastic start, right? And they can't even independently verify any of the claims. Fantastic. Thrilling. Okay? This is page 2. We're going to see this disclaimer a lot. I'm not going to read through it. I was worried, oh god, this is going to be big. It's going to take a really, really, really long stream. My voice is going to be so shot. but honestly, it's a lot of filler, and we're going to skim through a lot of it. Page 2, leadership message. Imagine, if you will, you are like a college student in like a 101 poli-sci class. This shit would get you failed. It's incredible. People are saying it was written with AI, as we'll get into some of the details. There are some inconsistencies with facts where no one knows where they're getting this data from, because it does not seem accurate. It seems contradictory, like as if it was hallucinated by AI. I don't have any evidence whether or not it was made by AI, but like, it's the kind of thing that makes sense because they can't find any objective backing for these claims. Table of contents. Introduction, executive summary, electoral landscape, what happened, electoral review. This is also a bad way to like to phrase this. I don't know. State of media and communication, state of research and strategy, state of organizing and advocacy, state of technology and data, fundraising analysis, spending analysis, conclusion, appendices, notes to the reader, sources. Introduction. In every election cycle, the two major parties and hundreds of outside groups invest enormous resources and energy trying to define the terrain for voter choice. What happens at the presidential level certainly impacts down-ballot race and contests, yet candidates across the ballot in both parties will still seek to define choices for voters in their specific elections. From those choices, the voters decide which choice is most resonant. One party declares itself the winner, and the other party declares that the fight is far from finished. Effective parties, understanding history rarely repeats itself, it does often rhyme, make it a point to study electoral outcomes after each cycle to identify potential improvements to every aspect of their campaigns. John Adams argued, liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people who have a right and a desire to know. 2 paragraphs in, this is really, really, really badly written. Like this feels like it was written by a 10th grader. Like it's just bad, it's bad prose. And we have to judge this as prose because it's nothing of actual substance. This is not like an informative technical document. This is prose and really bad prose. Just a general paragraph like, this is what elections are. Don't waste time with that. Who the fuck is your target audience? Are you kidding? It's so bad. This makes me so tilted. Oh God, like even the grammar is wrong. Effective parties, understanding history rarely repeats itself, comma, it does often rhyme, comma, make it a point to study electoral outcomes after each cycle to identify potential improvements to every aspect of their campaigns. Terrible, terrible sentence. Also here, John Adams argued, liberty cannot be preserved without a general knowledge among the people who have a right and a desire to know. See, you should have a comma after argued. Like, it's just, it's not well written. I don't know. It's just, this is like piss poor. The desire to know, to understand what is going well and needs to be maintained, along with understanding what is not working and needs to evolve, is at the heart of any substantive effort to evaluate the relative impact of strategies and tactics tied to a specific election cycle and specific candidate matchup in order to generate insights about what happened. That's one goddamn sentence. That says nothing at all. Yeah, it's basically like the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines elections as, we're at that level of like just basic bullshit. This is incredible. This is nothing. We're wasting a page here. We're wasting time and money. Democratic donor time and money, mind you, which could be better spent because we fucking need it. And the Democratic Party is in debt. Infuriating. No shit. Like, you know who commissioned this. You know whose eyes this is for. It's like the first rule of writing, like know your audience. First rule of design is know your audience. Why are you wasting time with this? Who is this for? They know what an election is. A thorough review can provide a blueprint for future campaigns, establishing a series of lessons learned to drive continuous improvement in future efforts. No shit! That's what they told you when they gave you this project. What the fuck? In this regard, the 2024 election was no different from any other. No shit. They're both elections. They're both elections. No shit. There were many dramatic moments framing the narrative of the national campaign, thousands of candidates seeking support from voters, and billions of dollars spent across the ballot and throughout the electoral ecosystem to advance particular interests. No shit! What the fuck? Yes, we know what an election is. Would you believe this election season also had candidates? There are things to vote for, and they're not saying them. It's incredible. I think you should vote for Democrats. I can tell you the actual good policies. Kamala Harris even had some ads, but a lot of people didn't hear them, and they were phrased terribly, right? Just like helping people buy a house, good stuff. Helping people like afford to raise kids. These are just good things. They're kind of lame and milquetoast. There could be better angles. It's just weird. Okay, there are many books already written and many more to come presenting analyses of what happened for both sides, the efficacy of the strategies advanced, decisions made, and actions taken during the presidential campaign. These analyses, in order to present a thorough picture of the will of the people and the choices they made, must extend beyond the presidential campaign to include those strategies, decisions, and actions taken by other federal, state, and local candidates and ballots nationwide, to examine why so many were able to succeed where others came short. Nothing page. Nothing page. Understanding that little d democracy is the will of the people, and big D democracy represents the systems and structures in place to advance or inhibit the will of the people. There must also be a review and analysis of the systemic and structural issues, some going back more than a decade, which have impacted electoral outcomes at every level. These issues can inhibit the evolution of democracy and limit the reach and success of the Democratic Party. Okay, here's my take. So far, this does not read as AI, even though there is like an M dash here. It's using it like in the middle of a phrase. They usually use like one to break up a sentence into two parts, not as like a dependent clause in the middle. But this is so bad. Like, this is just bad. Like, AI is more purposeful when it writes, which is important. Like, that's just the quality of what we have here. Unfortunate reductions in support and training for our state parties, consequential shifts in voter registration, a loss of partisan organizing capacity, and a persistent inability or unwillingness to listen to all voters has provided the other major party with opportunities for advancement at the expense of democratic growth, evolution, and ability to find common ground with seemingly disparate groups of voters from coast to coast, and the heartland Democrats tend to ignore. Here's the thing, right? Here, we're starting to get into some of the big picture topics. You know how you can phrase this? This is where, and AI will do this for you because it knows what people want to read, like a bullet summary, right? Bullet summary. Just so these stand out, because these ideas, not in a list, in a paragraph, in the midst of a several page chunk of just useless like word slop. Just like bullet, shifts in voter registration, bullet, a list of partisan organizing capacity, bullet, not listening to all voters, right? Because even here, a persistent inability or unwillingness to listen to all voters. Why this here is like, you should know. It shouldn't be, well, it could be this or that. And also the characterization of the motive doesn't matter. This is about the action in the report. I'm going to be dead honest with you. People have looked at this already. It is excluding Israel, but it's not, I'm not even convinced at this point it's like a conspiracy about Israel specifically or anything like that. It's just like, this is just an incomplete homework assignment by one dipshit who writes at like a 9th grade writing level. It's inefficient. It's incomplete in every way. It's so bad. There's like, it's not that they like ignored Israel and focused on something else in detail. They just didn't have any substance or conclusions in this. I've skimmed it. We're going through it in detail more, but like, it's, I mean, this might be one of those cases where like don't attribute to malice what could be attributed to incompetence. I'm sorry, like, you know, and weirdly, okay, there's an Axios article I'm going to tab to. This is the DNC Autopsy was finally dropped. In the Axios article, the Axios article, I have it up here. Okay. So this was written by Paul Rivera, who is in the DNC or like in the circle. He's fired now. He's not working there now. We know that. He is Ken Martin, who's the DNC chair, is like, he's his confidant, like he trusts him. He's a guy he knows. So he gave Paul Rivera the task of writing this report, right? Paul Rivera, so there's one thing in here. Is this the article or the other article? Sorry, I have a couple. Okay, yes, okay, here. It was finally released. Okay, this has caused a big shit show. Should we do an autopsy in the first place? Should we release it or not? Because this is an embarrassingly bad document. Some Democrats argued that Rivera appeared to tell different interest groups what they wanted to hear or avoided the most sensitive topics in his conclusions. Rivera met with the pro-Palestinian group IMEU Policy Project in July 2025 and told them the war in Gaza hurt Democrats in the 2024 election, according to people familiar with the meeting. As a young person online, I think that is important, right? Not only as an issue, it's not even like most voters' top issue, but for the subset of voters, like young people who are very like politically active and engaged, who should theoretically each cycle be the next generation of progressive voters. That became their issue, which was like a block in getting like a new generation of youth support. And also they would be in comment sections and it had a chilling effect on conversations about any other topic. So if you cared about healthcare, you wouldn't get a chance to talk about healthcare because it would get like railroaded into a conversation about Palestine in return, right? So this was significant. And I do feel as a young person, like I feel kind of gaslit at the like, that wasn't even a factor at all. Yes, it was not everyone's top issue, but like this was like in every conversation and was like a blocker for everything else. And to say that's not even significant, I feel is ridiculous. But there's another possibility here at the same time, and I don't know, right? Because it is two different things at once. He met with this pro-Palestinian group. He told them it was about Gaza. The final report makes no mention of Gaza. Rivera didn't respond to a request for comment. Okay? Yeah, IMEU Policy Project Executive Director Margaret DeRoos said in a statement, Ken Martin should release the information that the author of the autopsy told us clearly and unambiguously, which is that DNC officials' review of their own data found Biden's support for Israel to be a net negative for Democrats in 2024. In a staff call today, Martin told DNC officials that Rivera was no longer working with the DNC. Okay? So this was an article released today with the release of this. So he's not working there now, probably fired or something. Now, there's two possibilities, right? One, there was stuff about Gaza, and he cut it. Two, the other possibility is it wasn't actually about Gaza in the research he said, but this guy is so incompetent that he talked to the pro-Palestinian group, and he just told them what they wanted to hear to, like, win in that conversation. And this is, I can't even trust that. I can't even trust that. I'm saying, like, I want data on how important Palestine is. I'm looking at the data, the polling. It seems like the Democrat Party needs to take like a pretty principled anti-Zionist stance ahead of 2028, or else there's going to be a fringe bipartisan movement that's going to be significant enough to spoil any party otherwise. Like, and honestly, like, fucking free Palestine, right? What that's going to mean is like the sloppiness movement is going to end up backing the Republicans because they're most amicable to anti-Semitism, and then they're going to enact the most anti-Palestinian policies. But the Democrats are going to get blamed for it again, right? That's what it's a rerun of the fucking Iran hostage crisis in the end of the Carter era, right? Which, I mean, was, you know, enabled Ronald Reagan, one of the most evil fucking people alive, to like basically like, you know, sandbag Democrats from winning, and then just, you know, from like negotiating a peace deal and a hostage release, which Democrats tried to do, but too little too late, because Bibi Netanyahu is a fucking war criminal, evil piece of shit. Wouldn't play ball on purpose. Because he wanted Trump to win, Trump would give him whatever he wanted, right? We're going to see the same fucking thing again. And we need to, the fix for that is we need to know the exact impact that Gaza had and what to do about it. And what reasonable anti-Zionist stance, like, what's the degree, like, to which, like, you know, they can win people over who are actually going to vote and are not just, like, bad faith, like, Reuther bots and populists, right? We need to know the actual, like, line there. See, you know, can we do something about that? Can we do something about that? What's the way forward? But we can't, because it's not in the report. All we have about it is all the evidence we have that it was in this postmortem is this article from Axios saying that, like, yeah, they have reporting. He met with a pro-Palestinian group. He told them what they wanted to hear. But this guy is such a proven dipshit. I don't know the extent to which it was in the data and he took it out for, like, any political or, like, PAC money reasons, right? Or to the extent to which it wasn't there and he's just a people pleaser. And he was, like, you know, he's not seem very bright. He's a little maybe naive. I don't know. So I don't know. So yeah, to the extent, it's not like a one-note Gaza conspiratorial thing. There's a broader narrative of incompetence here. Unfortunately, there's so much incompetence that, like, we can't get a good look at Gaza in this. It's just a shit show of a document. So for all of this, please, this is not the fault of Ken Martin or the DNC. This is the fault specifically of Paul Rivera, who is paid donor money to do this and then fucked it up. Like, it's just like a kid didn't turn in his homework and then he just rushed it, right? Yeah. I mean, this is so tilting. It's incredibly bad. Unfortunate reductions in support and training for state parties, consequential shifts in voter registration. Yeah, okay, so we went through this. Sorry, it's hard to tell where I was because it's not well organized. Even as heading level, it's just you did an underline in plain text. It's so bad. This is not practical as document too. There's a whole dimension of this, by the way, which isn't even substance, but style and presentation. Just not here. Okay, I'm so already mad at this. Historically, Democrats have held the advantage in each of these areas. The Democratic Party has always tried to be seen as the party of the people, party of workers, fair play, and civil discourse. The party's connections with working Americans and their families were forged through decades of organizing and engagement, the development of a vibrant and inclusive party infrastructure, and a relatable agenda which helped us connect in homes, workplaces, neighborhoods across the country. That's fucking cool and all. This should have citations. This should have these little superscript numbers and brackets linking to sources at the bottom of each page, right? What are the historical examples that he's citing as good examples of effective democratic organizing? Because I have one, okay? I have one. I'm going to pull it up on screen. Hang on. FDR Economic Bill of Rights. Really, if I'm thinking, like, what is the political platform I would like to run on, right? I mean, my end goal is like Star Trek, right? Which is like a post-money, post-militarism utopia. And we get to just explore space and learn things and meet people. And that's just awesome. We can appreciate diversity and new ideas and information. I understand that's not going to happen in my lifetime. Currently, we have to work within some vaguely liberal framework that can appeal to the moderate voter, right? And just start to lift the floor out of the depths of hell and to achieve something decent. But here's what I think that should be and could be. Let me find a picture of it. Open imaging tab. That's way too tiny. Hang on, sorry. So, okay, I'm just trying to find some random thing with Google Images. Here we go. No, be a tab, be a tab. Be a tab in the thing. Okay, sorry. Just gotta. Here we go. Okay, this is Franklin Delano Roosevelt is one of the best presidents of our time. He had a clear agenda, right? He passed the New Deal. It was good. It saved America from destruction, right? It should have gone further. It was racist in its implementation. It should have been more. This is what he could get done, and it's what he did get done, right? And the criticism that it should have done more, it should have been less racist, is not to say he shouldn't have done it at all. It's to say we should have kept doing it, right? We should have kept going and done the rest and finished the job so everyone got to enjoy the bounty of America. FDR pitched a proposal to Congress, right? He did not live long enough to see this through. Really, just time passed, ran out of time. Did what he could, right? We needed a new president to follow this through. So the Bill of Rights that we have focuses on like things that the government can't restrict, like free speech, right? It's not like positively giving you free speech. It's you just have free speech. We can't like infringe on your free speech, right? The right to bear arms, like all the amendments, right? It's the things government can't get in the way of. After all that, FDR started pitching this idea of like, what if we had more like positive rights, like things that the government owes you and should work to provide you. And this is still one of the most brilliant frameworks of policy. It's just a clear checklist of ideas that should be the core planks of any democratic platform. And I'm going to put it on a t-shirt, right? A job. A living wage that can provide you food and clothing and recreation. Something about farmers, because really, if you want to conspire about who controls America, fucking farmers are so overrepresented. We've historically been a very rural nation, but farmers get so many bailouts, like it's incredible. But whatever. But that's that's jobs, but also jobs for farmers specifically, because farmers are the special baby of America. Okay, the rights of every businessman, large and small, to trade in an atmosphere of freedom from unfair competition and domination by monopolies at home or abroad. So it'd be things like blocking massive corporate mergers, right? The right of every family to a decent home, the right to adequate medical care and the opportunity to achieve and enjoy good health, the rights to adequate protection from the economic fears of old age, sickness, accident, and unemployment, and the right to a good education. That's all I've seen people asking for on the left or the center my entire lifetime. When people don't trust the Democrats, they don't have a clear idea of who the Democrats are or what they're about. That's it, okay? We just want some like clear fucking idea. Just a clear like, here's the things we're about. These apply to everyone. They can help everyone, right? It's not neglecting social issues or social minority groups. It's like everyone, including each social group, deserves this, which is cool. That's how you don't piss off some groups to get the good things. So I want to I'm gonna screenshot this if I can. I'm gonna like open this in a thing if I can. But I've made a I want to put this on a t-shirt. Like I want to put this on a t-shirt, this list, whatever. I'll show the design some other day. But like that's the kind of thing, right? People don't trust or understand the Democratic Party. Just a clear message of what you're about that are good, universal, wide-reaching values that anyone would be generally for if they heard. The problem when you like say you're even just voting for a Democrat, no matter how progressive they are, is like to be cool, to maintain any cred, you have to fall over yourself apologizing for it and apologizing for just like any of that because there's a reputation of being cringe and like weak instead of like we're just providing these like utilities and services. But yeah, no, okay, let's see what it is. Why now? Democracy is a very old institution. Wow. And yet what keeps democracy going is the ability of those who seek to lead to look at the data and determine the source of success as well as setbacks. This after-action report specifically aims to identify and elaborate upon the actions the Democratic Party must take after what happened in the 2024 cycle. This is weird. By the actions, you're not getting anything from that, like bolding actions. Also, they haven't bolded anything before. Like they're just figuring this out one paragraph at a time because you could tell they like, wrote this in separate chunks on separate days. Okay. This is the actions we should have taken after. You mean this is not an instruction for our time machine? Oh, good to know, right? We can induce this. There's so much time and effort and donor money being burned to write this. Wouldn't we get so much a better return on investment, by the way, if we spent the same money on like nonprofit, like charitable stuff? Like if we started doing food drives and then a big banner behind us that like Democrats, and then just like recorded and posted on social media and local news, like the Democratic candidates and politicians just like, handing out food or like working in a soup kitchen. Like, right? Wouldn't stuff like that like build more local community cred? I don't know the extent to which like campaign finance law interacts with that, but that's the kind of thing that like would get you way further than this. Because this is like basically Republicans complain about like fraud a lot because they just want a dog whistle to be racist. But like, if you want to look at like, whoa, where are these big orgs wasting money and setting money on fire for nothing? This is a great fucking use of this. How many days this guy just spent like sitting in his apartment on a laptop, like watching TV, like watching Love Island, and then, jotting some of this shit out. I'm so upset. I'm so upset. Oh my God. This report identifies the program's priorities for consideration and implementation to build our party to win over the next 10 years and to again become the party of the people well into the future. This report includes a thorough evaluation of voter behavior in the context of the individual level collection of voter contact data and localized demographic data. The analyses aim to identify gaps in participation, determine the correlation between the frequency and distribution of partisan voter contact, and declare the urgent steps needed to reclaim our strength in engaging voters across the nation. In simple terms, this is meant to be the simple terms. This is the summary section. If your summary needs a summary, in simple terms, this report follows the money, identifying the top spenders and vendors in both parties, offering insights into where the money went, including who benefited and what issues were prioritized. Is benefited misspelled? Okay, sorry. That's the American English version. I've read too much like classic like English lit. Okay. I'm just gonna start skipping ahead because this is all useless. The Regional Party evaluates and compares comparative and competitive media spending. Okay, the mix of broadcast and digital investments. Oh my God. Need for greater innovation and experimentation in sharing the Democratic story with more voters and to greater effect and impact. I do think we need a story. I think we need a brand. Like, there's not a sense of what the Democrats are. That's not just like whatever Republicans decide to say Democrats are. Finally, the report assesses the state of data and technology, with recommendations to ensure the security and resiliency of our critical infrastructure, and opportunities to improve tools and tech to meet the needs of modern, vibrant campaigns. This is so badly written. Why is it so long? Honestly, they should have used more AI than they used. This is embarrassing. Okay, let's see. A unifying declaration to voters. We the people is not a new idea, but an enduring philosophy meant to include each generation and every available innovation in its design and operation. At no point in this does it use we the people as an effective rallying cry or a synthesis of any ideas presented herein. So why this person seems to like we the people as a slogan, I have no fucking idea. It's useless also. We the people, it's kind of a vague America virtue signal. It doesn't, you're not getting much. You could maybe do a populist thing against like corporations, like where the people are the corporations, but otherwise, what? It's not, what are you for? What are you about? It's as vague as you could possibly be. And that's the problem, by the way, when we look at the Democratic website. It's just the Democratic Party is the party that elects Democrats. What is a Democrat? Well, a Democrat is a member of the Democratic Party. Like, it's people, define in a way that cannot be misdefined. The report analyzes a range of publicly and commercially available data. No source material or data provided. Unsourced claims cannot be independently verified. As we go through this, and we're going to start to go through it faster, the delight in this is seeing the actual like Ken Martin and the DNC's like feedback on this in red, like a teacher like grading a test. And it's real bad. In parallel to this report, the DNC and ASDC have conducted more than 1,200 interviews to assess the health of over 57 state parties in every state, district, or territory. Okay, yeah. Some participants may agree in part and disagree in part with portions of this report. We thank all participants for their candor and contributions and their enduring commitment to the oldest continuing political party in the United States. When we looked at the Democratic Party website a few weeks ago, I did notice also they had language like, we're the oldest continuing party in the United States. Not only does it not matter, but that's not even a good thing, right? I mean, in the new age, like you want to be seen as new and fresh, not like tired and outdated. And frankly, that's a brand they can and should much easier stick to Republicans who are obsessed with this like Gilded Age, old white men in rooms. It's like country club funding. It's very dusty. Like, I don't know, paint them as liches, you know? Like the Democratic Party, even their whole style guide is like using like a bold new industrial, it's meant to be like young and hip and cool. Why do they keep bragging about being an old party? It gets them nothing. And they have a reputation for their establishment being kind of rotten and out of date. Like, don't lean into that. Executive summary. This section was not provided by author. Well, that's the executive summary. Honestly, I think this is a very effective executive summary. There isn't an executive summary, and at the same time, this is the perfect summary of what this document is. Nailed it. It does, I agree with someone, yeah, Jerry, yes, it does show bad judgment that he was picked to do this report and he was never redirected or replaced. The problem with that is, right, a big part of Ken Martin's leadership, what he's trying to do, like through the career, is he recognizes there's a trust issue in the Democratic Party. But how he's tried to address that is by trying to keep the Democratic Party neutral and stay out of putting a bias into how they do things, right? So like after 2016, lots of people complained about the primary, right? Like felt like Bernie Sanders got done for shake. Ken Martin helped like redo some of the rules so that the insiders can't like put their thumb on the scale, and it is more like democratic, right? So yeah, he's had a career with that. Since he got into the DNC chair position, he changed the rules so like the Democratic establishment can't take sides in a primary race, so it's like up to the people, which is good. That stops like out of touch establishment, corporate like kind of elites, and like, you know, establishment politicians have been there for a while, from like picking sides and being biased and not understanding the people. So we get better democratic feedback in like our primaries, which is a good change. The problem is people don't want necessarily the Democratic Party to say nothing. They want the Democratic Party to say the right things and feel in touch. And so an absence of signal is like not as bad as a bad signal, but it's still not a good signal. And the example of this is Mamdani, right? In Mamdani's race, people were getting really panicked around the Democratic Party because they were refusing to endorse Mamdani despite overwhelming polling, which seemed like they supported Andrew Cuomo, which may or may not have been true for different people. We don't know. But that was an example of like this neutrality rule backfiring. So with this report, like Ken Martin wanted, again, to be like, hey, we were too involved in the election. We'd be biased. We want like a fair reading. Gave it to Rivera and let Rivera cook for a while. And I think was not given enough oversight whatsoever, because turning this in after like a year is embarrassing. And I think he was on way too long a leash and needed regular check-ins, needed something, right? And I understand like the fears about like, oh, would we be like biasing or influencing like, you know, the pressure to give us something or tell us what we want to hear. But at the same time, come on, man, like, come on. This is unacceptable after a year. And I think part of why they hid this is because this is an embarrassing look. It's embarrassing to donors. It's embarrassing to voters. And everyone's making fun of this today. It's just bad. And like part of it is the embarrassment of like they should have been more involved and replaced them sooner. The best, clearest takeaway, the problems of the Democratic Party are how they fumbled this, reacted to feedback way too late for a problem they should have been in touch enough to see and prevent in the first place. Electoral landscape, 10 years for stronger future. Double headings, okay. We're talking about how autocratic and authoritarian the government is. Yeah, no shit, it's bad, but this is not the place to complain about the Republicans. That is on Twitter, right? This is the place to do something good. This is a paragraph just saying, under 10 years for stronger future. This is just a paragraph saying, we need a 10-year plan. Okay, I got that. We must organize everywhere to win anywhere. This is already a slogan that's been on their website for like years. So this is nothing to me. That's not an insight. That's basically plagiarism. Winning anywhere means providing a renewed focus on the voters of Middle America and the South. This I really do agree with. There is going to be some like, you know, kind of self-evident and obvious, but some good advice in here. I do think the way forward for like Democratic leadership, we need to stop writing coastal elites from California. This is going to blow up in Gavin Newsom's face so hard. And Kamala Harris also. But like, you know, we need Democrats who understand the heartland, Middle America and the South. Yeah. Also, that's like, there's big Black communities, South. Important, most important, fucking showing up, doing the work section of our base. We have come to believe that they're not including the democratic vision of a stronger and more dynamic America for everyone. That is true. Millions of Americans are suffering from poor access to healthcare, manufacturing and job losses, and a failing infrastructure. They continue to be persuaded to vote against their best interests because they do not see themselves reflected in the America of the Democratic Party. We can do this because we've done it before. 1989? That's our example, not FDR? Okay. In 1989, after losing 3 straight presidential campaigns, our party refocused the conversation around policy and purpose to reclaim the vital center of American discourse. Understanding the center is where most people live. Then DNC chairman Ron Brown led Democrats out of the political wilderness by supporting candidates putting people first, prioritizing the economy, and offering America hope. It was Ron Brown who understood every corner of America was hurting and proclaimed his tenure would be less about race and more about the races we win. Yikes. Ron Brown also challenged the Democratic Party to think and be different. He focused less on pie-in-the-sky narratives and asked the party to get real about the politics of success. Holy shit, is this a source? No, it's not a source. This, like, I can't click on this. I'm sorry. I know this looks like a source. Like, there's not actually a link here. I'm clicking. I'm trying. It's not... I'm not sure if I can zoom in enough. Let me scroll over in this. Hang on. On mobile, I gotta listen to this better. Oh my god. Chairman Brown was relentless in his party building, and his optimism inspired others to unify and focus on the end goal, winning the White House again in the face of 3 consecutive defeats, leaving many Americans with a distaste for Democrats and politics in general. Brown was idealistic and practical, and fought for his beliefs while challenging those who argued it could not be done. There should be way more sourcing in this. I don't know. This is like one person's anecdotal recounting of one time in history. Source 2. Also, this should be like a superscript thing. Why is this like this? And why don't any of the links work? Why only here did we start to use sources? Incredible. Under this future-focused directive, okay, yeah, we won governor's races in Virginia, mayoral races in New York City, and elected Bill Clinton to the White House in 1992. I don't know how purple these places were at the time, but I don't think our big accomplishments we should brag about and point to as examples of winning in a harsh environment should be a governor's race in Virginia and a mayoral race in New York City. I'm sorry, especially after saying we need to get in touch with the South. This is not the South. Okay, the ultimate sign of recognition of Ron Brown's unifying visions was President Barack Obama, who acknowledged he was president in part because of Ron's vision for the future, because of the example he set, because of the organization that he brought to the Democratic Party. Was this guy in charge when Barack Obama was running? Shouldn't we look into that as an example? Because Obama blew the fuck out of the 2008 election. Like, he did a good job both times. With a new, broad, and more modern coalition than 1992. Finding our way back to this level of success will not be easy. It will not happen overnight. Okay, the first is that we do not plan to advance alone. This is bad. It's like 2 conversational sentence structure. Winning anywhere is a shared mission and purpose with DNC and its partners. We will do the hard work to reassess our strategies, our messaging, and our targets, and challenge your partner. You don't use end and then end. Do it for the last one. Including labor and other progressive organizations to hold us accountable as we move through the next 10 years and beyond. Part of their problem is just seeing labor as a progressive organization. Secondly, this is so bad. I think there's 2 reasons. They say that in this paragraph, and this paragraph also includes first reason, and then the second paragraph is just a standalone reason. Sorry, just like, I keep looking at this like an English teacher, because it is just, it's written by like a boy. Oh my god. Once we win, we will ensure our newly elected and re-elected officials move consistently and decisively to instill faith and confidence in the American voting public. Well, we're off to a bad start, Rivera. The rage of the voters, stoked daily by information silos, talking heads, and even politicians, has contributed to most Americans having a lack of confidence in both parties. Democrats must accept it is more important than to deliver on what they promise, and then make sure our constituents are aware we are fighting for the things they care the most about. Oh, this is meant to say it's more important than ever. First of all, so many people say, it's more important than ever, and it's always like a useless thing to say, but they forgot a word. This sentence is like, just does not make sense. Okay, so like this was not even proofread. Also, this section, which is meant to be like something specific, is still just another broad, high-level slop, just ramble about nothing in particular. Like, there's no focus in this section. Oh my god. The reason we will win is twofold. Okay, that means you have 2 reasons, first of all. You have 2 reasons. You don't have a twofold reason. We will not do it alone, okay? And then we will win because once we win, we'll govern well? But that's not a reason why you'll win. I'm tired. Guessing the state of the party. There are always hot takes after an election. No shit. No shit. I pretend I know what this is about already. Skip it. This is the worst written thing I've ever seen. Oh my god. This is the stream where I get pissed. I'm sorry. Yes, many are deeply angry at the outcome of the selection. Yeah. They feel cheated, abused, and taken advantage of by a broken system. The margins were close. Okay. Even the numbers here don't match the public data. Also, what do you mean 4 states decided the presidency? Didn't he win all 7 swing states? What? Even if there was one viable path that included just 4 states flipping, you can't just look at that as like the only reason or the only example. What are you talking about? Oh my god. This is just bragging about like, wow, we lost, but we didn't lose that bad. It's nothing. It's nothing. Okay, this is a small margin leads some to believe we need less changing of the message and approach, and more massaging of their ideas for widespread adoption. That's still a change in message. That's what the message is. You message about the idea. This guy is so stupid. This guy's actually stupid. This one stupid guy has been tanking the reputation and the necessary trust building of the entire National Democratic Party for a goddamn year? I hate men. Oh my god. What the fuck? Their arguments have run nonstop since November 2024. With a better political climate or advancing slightly different policies or with a different candidate, victory could have been assured. No shit, no shit. This kind of thinking, denial at its core, prevents the party from seeking real accountability, making the change we need to deliver on our promises to the American people. Oh, gosh. Okay, since 2008 with Obama, the Democratic Party has vacillated between stagnation and retrogression. Okay. I agree with that. Yeah, like there's not a clear vision forward. It's kind of more this like nervous hedging backwards instead of taking the momentum and running with it. That's cool. Still now a little too... I thought this was about, though, like the actions we can do right now, and this is like another weird look at the distant past. Ugh. In the 16 tumultuous years since that historic election, Democrats have lost ground at every level of government. Yes, we know that. Yes, that's obvious. I just want good things to win. I just want good things. These wins are welcome and point to the optimism entrenched in the majority party strategy. A dive into the details shows some of those elections were tighter than Democrats would be comfortable with, and points to room for improvement in future efforts. Okay. Okay, yeah. Wow, we won. Wow, we won in 2008. No shit. Also, you have to be worried about like any one point in 2008 too much as like a standalone thing, because George Bush did just deregulate housing, and it led to the Great Recession because everyone was gambling on bundled mortgages. So I mean, people were unhappy generally. So yeah, like you do need a detailed analysis of to what extent is this the positive fault of Democratic organizers and Obama. To what extent is this negative like fault of just broader things in general that Republicans were tied to, or just the desire for change in general. Okay, yeah. In 2010, it was divestment from state parties. Interesting. That helped. Okay. And then the stresses towards Wall Street. Yeah, I do think if like we went hard on Wall Street in 2010, we'd be in a better place today. This is in the States. Okay, the census. Questions, yeah. Even this is other factors, right? Saying there was a census, and well, there's like, you know, gerrymandering stuff. Okay, it's not a thing you can do to win or lose elections. Besides like gerrymandering them back, but like this is now an autopsy of 2008. Of factors outside of like things we can say and do in future elections. This doesn't transfer at all. What? Yeah, we don't have the numbers. Yeah, okay. No evidence provided for this claim. Something about super PACs. Cool. Total outside spending by cycle. Yeah, we know that. This was public knowledge. Yeah, like this guy needs to be like. I mean, this guy is no longer working the DNC, which means he could have been fired. I don't know. But I mean, the extent to which I was like willing to like, okay, like Ken Martin's in a tough spot. He's trying and doing stuff, but the fact that Ken Martin was running cover for this guy and not like firing him immediately and commissioning another team, a team, not a guy, to do this, is maybe a pretty good reason. If there were to be a vote to like replace Ken Martin with somebody else, you know, like a new election for leadership, I don't think anyone would shed a tear at this point. Weirdly though, no one seems to blame Ken Martin too much for like this is bad, you know. Like it's not really his fault if he like did the work of like, oh, we need to hire somebody or contract this out, you know, so we get a fair look. And then the contractor just tends to be an ass. Like that happens to people. Like people don't understand that, but it's the fact that he ran cover for this. Oh my gosh. All right. You know, 2012, yeah, okay. This is just wrong, just factual errors. Oh no. Here's something obvious though. There's maybe some room for some more populism. Given that it seems Republicans were losing to Tea Partiers for like a long time. Like there was some energy there, some desire to, some anger to do something more about Wall Street. And we've kind of let the worst people do that and take that energy, and then the good people have not integrated any of that at all. Doesn't need to be we need to be like crazy conspiratorial anti-Semites, right? It just means like, you know, do some FDR stuff. Like level with people and decide this is a big problem we need to tackle systemically. Which is even just really hiking tax rates for the rich. And then that provides like so much more social stability nets when things go wrong. Vision and distractions, okay. Hillary Clinton, yes. Hillary Clinton, yes. Okay. Give me something useful. Don't just give me trivia about what seats we won and lost. Give me the whys. Give me the actionable whys. I'm so upset. David Hogg does not seem to know how to play the game to win, right? I have tremendous respect for like AOC as someone who's like, I want to make progressive change, but I also like know I need to like not just be a firebrand. Like David Hogg was trying to primary safe Democrats in safe seats as the priority. What you need to do is like flip a bunch of red seats blue. So then even if half of them are shitty half the time, you still have like basically enough votes in Congress to pass any progressive legislation. If you could just like guarantee you have the floor, then it's a matter of what's the best idea or the best bill that wins. And then we get to play and do stuff. The problem is right now, like anyone with a good idea, I was taking like ASC, right, is like bound by like, there's not even enough people who would remotely ever vote for a good thing to have anything happen. Like David Hogg's priorities were just like cost inefficient. And then he started like just punching his own side a lot and didn't seem to, and he got very one on gun control, which is something that like can't even win in a lot of places, including like Democratic places. And he did not seem interested in like changing, like winning on that issue, right? He was just like doubling down on something that's been proven to be toxic. I want safer schools. If that's common sense gun control, sure. Find a way to pitch that in a way that does not freak out voters, and then they vote for like an actual fascist, right? He did not seem particularly interested in that. I don't know. So I mean, it was just he was not very well liked in leadership, and then got thrown out because, like, you know, if you're on the team, like you can't antagonize your own team. It has consequences. I don't know. He's like he was not savvy. Like he should have been savvier. Or like just if he's just a single issue guy, which it kind of seems like he is a little bit. There are more effective roles in which to be a single issue guy. And obviously he's been through a lot. He has his own personal trauma, but like his perspective is very limited. And it's not the role, like that's not the perspective you want for like who should be in charge of this larger operation and can like help Democrats win all over. Because like he's gonna just start throwing in the South. Like if you have a David Hogg type, it just gives it control. There's like Beto O'Rourke famously lost in Texas by being like too pro gun control to Texas. I think gun control, like just statistically, like it works in countries that have it, it's safe, but like you got to know your audience a little bit, and I don't know. Um, it's not. There's no profit here. Like Rivera does not have a big, cushy, rich job. He worked a white collar job for the DNC and got fired. You know. Um, Resistance and return. Okay, let's do one. Let's see. Okay, yeah, wow, we came back. This is just a history of what seats we won and lost. I don't care. Why are they? Every section of this is just listing states. It's just trivia. Like it's a filibuster. Did he do his homework at all? Claim contradicts public reporting. Okay, so he's just talking about January 6th and getting the numbers wrong. Jesus Christ. Inaccurate. No data provided. He just did not. We know we're losing. We know we're losing. That's the point. That's the premise of the assignment you are given. There's no whys in any of this. It's the future, stupid. No sourcing provided for several claims in the section. Oh my gosh. All right. Democrats have lost ground. Yes, we know that. This is interesting, though. Wait, he conflates family leave and sick leave? Family leave? Okay. Oh gosh. Sad truth is Democrats have lost ground at every level from inconsistent messaging and improper planning, even as the policies the party advances continue to earn voter support at the ballot box. This is interesting. Ballot measures for Medicaid expansion, nonpartisan redistricting. You guys, as a party, we can't have nonpartisan redistricting be our top issue we're running on. We can't be like, here you go, guys. We'll give the other team a fair chance. We're gonna do more for them. It's not something you like want to run on. Is like, I want my team to win. I don't want my team to make sure the other team can win more. Ballot measures for Medicaid expansion, nonpartisan redistricting, wage increases, family leave, and reproductive freedom have passed in states where Democrats remain locked out of statewide offices. The divergence means the party and our candidates have lost the confidence and trust of voters. In the face of misinformation and disinformation, our candidates have proven incapable of projecting strength, unity, and leadership, and voters have drifted away. Indeed, many of our critical Democratic wins can be attributed to negative partisanship, where Republicans have nominated deeply flawed candidates. Yeah, so we're not really winning on like people like Democrats. We're winning on people who hate Republicans, which is the easiest thing in the world, because have you met a Republican? Currently, all Republicans care about are like stopping the release of the Epstein files, protecting pedophiles, building ballrooms with taxpayer dollars, and they don't care about skyrocketing gas prices, skyrocketing grocery prices, skyrocketing rent prices. There's not enough housing. They're not doing anything to solve this. Yes, and that's honestly, if you're looking for cause, that is it. Yes, someone into the chat. Yeah, Magmaster13. Yes, Republicans have control of the media. And this is the problem, by the way, and how we lost rural areas. In rural communities, you spend more time with, just your neighbors, your family, maybe like a church, right? You would not have as many people. But labor was the main social group in which you'd be exposed to like workers' rights and left-leaning stuff. Like you'd have a union at your factory, right? But all those factories shut down and left, and they haven't been really replaced. Not a lot of jobs. So there's not really any left-leaning orgs that are reaching in and give a shit. On top of that, when the Democratic Party doesn't put any time or money or care into supporting liberals and Democrats and progressives and socialists in like rural areas, there's no network connection, right? There's nothing. So you're not hearing from or seeing or in touch with any sense of like what the alternative is. What they are seeing, even in their own houses, even if they don't talk to anyone, is Fox News on TV every day, or the weirder ones now. So they're being constantly bombarded every single day with like blame Democrats, even if Democrats have never had power in their town, or city or state or whatever else. So this is a possibility where even when we do good things, there's no information exposure to that. The only information exposure they're getting is misinformation and disinformation and propaganda from Rupert Murdoch is an evil man who has a specific agenda and promotes promotes that. Yeah, like Sinclair Media. Yeah, another one. TikTok, bought and owned. CNN actually was bought by right wingers and is, CNN is still seen as like moderate or left leaning. It's not. Yeah, it's bad. This was a blatant attempt by the Republican power base to take advantage of name recognition and tough economic conditions to push through an unqualified candidate whose job would have been little more than rubber stamping the president's agenda. In 2022, Joe Biden was president. Oh my God. This is so much worse than I thought it was. Cinema, absolute cinema. Democrats cannot count on Republicans continuing to nominate deeply flawed candidates and certainly need to think through how to nominate strong and ethical leaders. Regaining trust and confidence in the party, where voters have an affirmative reason to support Democrats, take a comprehensive strategy and considerable effort over multiple cycles. Okay, need to do it and do it right now because the future could become more difficult. Yep. Gerrymandering. 2. Yeah. The 2030 census is going to make it harder. The gerrymandering is making it harder. You know that, yeah. Okay. We are on page 19. We still don't have any actionable advice for what to do besides the goal of win more and then have people like us when we're in power. Which I could honestly commission a 6-year-old one apple juice box and an Uncrustable peanut butter and jelly to tell me as well. And I could probably save the Democratic National Committee some money there. Democrats meet the moment by identifying and preparing leaders. What? Oh, sorry. It's just a really, really bad breakup of... Oh my God. Look at this. Wait. They have 2 sources cited. They're both the same source. You dipshit. What the fuck? Is that for the whole section? Oh, here, by the way, he changed how he's actually citing sources. Now he's using superscript, not linked at all, by the way. Completely changed the style. It's not even internally consistent. This guy didn't care. Honestly, if I was like Ken Martin, I would lean towards like disregard anything in this report. Like, this is a person who's so stupid and so careless in what he's saying and doing. Do I trust him? Like, what are the odds? You know he's factually wrong about so much already. Listen to what he said. Would you trust this guy's authority to tell you what to do? Is that what the playbook document is? Was it literally just like an alternative that they did themselves after seeing this? What the fuck? I'm sorry, okay. Yeah, at the same time, we need a new strategy. Yeah, okay. What is the strategy? What is the strategy? What happened? Electoral review. No evidence provided for many claims in this section. This alone should disqualify this entire report. Someone in chat asked if I have played TF2. Yes, I have put a disgusting thousands of hours in middle school and high school into TF2. And thousands of hours into Overwatch. I still think they should make a Team Fortress 3. Okay, states which have consistently and reliably voted for Democratic candidates, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, voted for Trump. All 3 of these states voted for Trump in 2016. Oh my God. 0 for 3. What the fuck? It's mathematically wrong, not supported by data. Claims contradict public reporting. Appears to be missing Delaware. This is incredible. How about, here's a new pitch, right? The Democratic Party needs some money, which frankly should be going to like hardworking people running in states, local areas. Just get this Paul Rivera guy, put him in a dunk tank, and then just like let any donor pay $10 to like have a throw. Missing Delaware. Claims contradict public reporting. This guy. Where did they find this dude? I mean, to be fair, his experience includes working on the campaign for John Kerry in 2004. So that's whose perspective we really want, right? You know, can't imagine a better electoral win than John Kerry in 2004. He lost, by the way, for all the Zoomers in chat. Oh my god. I said this before, by the way. The Democrats don't have the infrastructure or the passion of the people right now to run at all in these like lots of local like rural and southern and midwestern areas, right? There's just no infrastructure whatsoever. What there is infrastructure for, we're seeing growing, are like local DSA chapters and leftist and progressive groups, who are starting to try and do something, but like they're distrustful of like broader electoral power typically, which is sad, which means they don't win. They see that to Republicans, which is a lot of power. There's a lot of good you can do electoral office, regardless, right? But they are doing other stuff like little mutual aid projects, little like, let's raise some money for people in need. Let's like do some like food banks and stuff. Start getting in touch with those orgs. See if they're willing to be like franchised local DNC operations in their states and just like become that state's like democratic apparatus. Share resources with them because there's the lessons to learn from what's working there and what they're doing, what they care about. And there's stuff, resources we could give them. Howard Dean would have done great stuff. Yeah, Howard Dean was disqualified for like doing a funny yell once, and I can't believe this is disqualifying. Howard Dean had this whole ethos like we need to run literally everywhere and win everywhere, and he was fucking right. He was fucking right. It worked in the Obama era, and then got rid of him, and now wow, we just don't even bother with all these places, and then shocker, we lose those places. Like there's not even the potential. We discount the possibility to hold a bunch of seats. We don't even try. And then let's Republicans who have way more money because they're evil and they hoard wealth, just throw all their money at fewer races. So of course they're going to win. Contradicts claims elsewhere in the report. No. Oh my god. Okay. This is a fascinating example, all right? Apparently there's like 10 pages on this, the North Carolina governor's race. And this is being used as like a case study of a good, strong Democrat win. Here's the problem. This guy ran against a Republican who was like a crazy Nazi, and his social media history came out. And he was like a comically, embarrassingly bad candidate. This is an example, not of Democrat good, but of Republican obviously bad. It was like a fluke easy win. This is in no way like a good case study for an overperforming, how can you win leftward power in a rightward area. Nate Silver did some great, like, made a chart of like who should be like, who should consider running for president in 2028, of looking at like who are the most overperforming Democrats who are like being considered for president, and found some good examples. It's not Gavin Newsom, it's Andy Beshear, the Democratic governor of Kentucky. He's a dorky dad. He has like Mr. Rogers energy, and he has a smoking hot wife and like 2 kids and a dog. And he's religious, and he supports trans kids, and he's the governor of fucking Kentucky. This is what we should be learning from. It's like there's stuff here. We could be learning from this. But by all means, let's base our entire strategy assuming we're gonna run against a Nazi who embarrasses themselves, and then their social media history comes out. By all means, that's applicable, right? Okay, there's 2 pages on New Hampshire governor. No evidence provided for this. Like, this isn't even worth reading because if there's not information for it, I'm gonna start skipping over these sections. No evidence provided for this claim. No evidence provided for these claims. No evidence provided. Like, I don't want to read this because that's like me spreading misinformation, and that can damage our understanding of things. Like, medically, it's like a trap. Oh my god. I'm sorry. I thought we'd read this and find some cool stuff, even if it was like partial and incomplete. But instead we're finding stuff we should actively not pay attention to. That's the tragic thing, right? In a lot of these places, like where you'd want the best candidates for president who could do more good there, you might lose a state. Like also, like John Ossoff in Georgia. Georgia's interesting. Georgia has been made a swing state through the hard, long, gradual work of Stacey Abrams, who's done amazing things to empower Black voices in the South, and like target like hardcore like voter registration. Let's build that community. Like Stacey Abrams put in the work. She didn't like get enough to win, but like has had a lasting impact on shifting like big swaths of the South leftward. Those are the kinds of people like I think we need to be listening to, because they're actually the ones who know how to build this long-term power, not this random dipshit. 222. Like, regardless of whether they won or not, you want to look for those people who can single-handedly bring the biggest delta. Like, they're bringing the biggest shift, which means like they're, putting in the most effort. Like they're pulling the rope, and they're getting the most distance, putting in the most strength. Like, they're leveraging something smarter than everyone else is. Regardless, win or lose, those are the kinds of people who are like, okay, you could get something here, right? And if your end goal, like mine, is like, I want fucking Star Trek, right? I want, ideally, we should have to worry about money. Healthcare should be instantaneous and free. Like, obviously, that's pie in the sky, but steps, progress, universal healthcare, I think we could do in 2028. But you need to look for like the people punching above their weight class, the most efficient people. My hot take is I think Jasmine Crockett is really underrated. She hopped into the Texas Senate race against a white Christian virtue signaling boy. She hopped in late, had like a fifth of the money he did, and like none of the press. Jasmine Crockett lost, but it was like 45 to 55, kind of split, with way less time and a fifth of the money. That's a loss, but to me, like, that's someone who's, efficient. Like, these are the kinds of, like, learn from these people. Like, get them in a room, see what they'll have to say. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of black voices who are completely underrated, but, are playing for real fucking stakes. Versus this guy who, I don't know what's on his other screen while he's sitting in his apartment. Just making shit up that's not provided in evidence or backed by anything. No evidence provided for many claims in the section. Methodology appears inconsistent. Oh my. Even in this, like, there's not even consistent capitalization. The lesson, the opportunity, the limits. I'm sorry, I don't want to read into this much if it's gonna be. It's just gonna be like slop. I don't want to take into account lies. I really don't want to take into account lies. See, even this contradicts claims. Like, I don't want to read this, and there's no point reading it if it's just misinformation. I really don't like engaging with misinformation. If you engage with misinformation, it should be to directly and immediately refute it. Don't entertain it or platform it at all. Like, don't do debates with, like, bad faith people who just want to, like, ramble and lie, Like, bad actors know the power of misinformation. Because, some people just believe what they see and hear. And just their goal is to maximize exposure to ideas. And that works. That's also how sources like Fox News and now alternative media have, like, captured even, like, rural areas into right-wing nonsense. In places where they're too rural and there's not enough alternative power sources who get any sign of, like, a contradicting perspective. My gosh. Okay, the formula. Winning requires a strong urban performance, plus competitive suburbs, plus limited rural losses. Okay, this is my problem with this report, right? This line right here. The formula. Winning requires a strong urban performance, competitive suburbs, and limited rural losses. What does this say to you? What does this mean? To me, this is saying we have to win more and lose less everywhere. The only distinction between these places are, like, you're probably going to win more in the places where it's easy to win more, and you're probably going to lose in the places that aren't on our side, but try to not lose there too bad. Like, this says nothing. That's the whole takeaway of the section. It's nothing. I'm glad they released this, but this is, like, just rage bait. It genuinely is. So I'm sorry. I felt this would be more useful than it is. I'm going to keep going through it. I'm not sure how far I'll get. Might not do the entire thing. And tomorrow I'm going to come back with Z's article from Z runs campaigns. She runs National Ground Game and the Unfuck America tour. She's, like, really, like, in it to win it and is on the ground. And she also put out an article, like, of her perspective on how Democrats can win. Going to be way more useful than this. Also unsurprising, a woman's voice is going to be more like, we're playing for keeps here in real stakes. And so it's going to take this project more seriously. No evidence for many claims in the section. Data inconsistent with public reporting and contradicts several underlying assumptions. No evidence provided for these claims. No evidence provided. Contradicts claims elsewhere in this report. Jesus. Going negative works, especially if voters know you. Like, I don't think this is even worth reading. Like, I could genuinely see, a completely like well-meaning, not like a corrupt corporate conspiracy like bought by big corporations or APAC, whatever. But like maybe Ken Martin would be like, don't release this because it's just full of active misinformation and lies by some guy who is just making shit up. Like this is basically a Twitter thread. Just making up his own numbers and reasons and not backing up any of them. And then like misciting and misquoting basic factual information to support them. Thank you, Mr. Chaos. Like, what the fuck? Hi, everybody. Like, it's very possible to me. This could just be like a cognito hazard. Like, if people just have this in their mind and they trust it and they start running with it. I would say I'm a Democrat. Yeah. I'm not this Democrat. This Paul Rivera guy who wrote this autopsy. I am not this guy. I want this guy shot with a laser. I want this guy destroyed from space. This guy is like dangerously just like poisoning the well for funsies on the back of donor money. What the hell? I'm sorry, it's like scrolling around weird. Okay. The male voter problem was solvable. Rural miscalculation. So we gotta win in rural places. We gotta win men. Definition problem. Cited a clear definition. Attorney General with a strong record. Voters knew what he'd done and what he'd do. Harris struggled with definition beyond not Trump and prosecutor versus felon. The truncated campaign timeline didn't help. The campaign did not quickly resolve on how to tag Trump and define Harris. This is true. I do think like cop versus criminal, prosecutor versus felon could have worked. It is not cool to the left. You're gonna hemorrhage like votes on like the progressive left, which was a mistake, right? But if they pushed cop versus criminal enough, it might have worked. The problem is so many people at this point are parasocially invested in Donald Trump. They just will factually, like, you can see their brains shut down and they will like, refuse, they will reject in any conversation when you bring up the factual objective truth that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. So that might just not have worked. So just like they tune that out, they just lock down their brain. But anyway, like that's a narrative, right? That could win over some like more tougher moderate types, you know, like the old dads who think like government should just be like an old badass sheriff with a mustache and a gun. You know, like it could have worked, could have got some gains there, but they just didn't even try that either. They just like left it there implied just enough that soured the left and didn't win the right. So that did suck. But I mean, the bigger definition problem that I've seen as a young person, very online, was Kamala Harris did a genocide. That was a negative reputation that I saw. Not just not Trump, but there was an active definition put forward with bipartisan support because Groypers are permanently online and a lot of them are software developers and like are motivated anti-Semites. Like Groypers are just like actual neo-Nazis, right? Like Groypers do flood sections with bots. They invest to push ideas. They will create fake accounts. I think a lot of the far left is organic and populist and angry. They're just like not read on civics. And I think they don't realize that like these movements are kind of pushing each other up and like can promote stuff kind of recklessly. Oh my God. But like that was the definition that I saw all over the internet in like every internet space on every platform. And it feels weird to talk about the definition and avoid that. The regular voters weren't feeling it. That's another place where, frankly, Gaza is relevant to bring up. Harris voters fell below 50% with new voters. Stein won 56%. The Harris campaign's re-engagement targets appear to have both not shown up and voted more for Trump than expected. Another thing I saw here, by another creator on here, these are the guys like Losers and Killers, who's like a white boy in kind of college age. I don't agree with his perspective on everything, but those are very important perspectives to have because those are the demographics that did flip for the right. But he is himself like a liberal, but he has that perspective, right, of kind of like a, you know, young man. And his take was that like even the Kamala HQ accounts, like all the social media presence, was focused very much on the girls and the gays, which I think is true. I think this reads and is fair. I liked it. I thought it was fun and kind of a party vibe, but like didn't really offer anything to young white men, which was true. And it didn't really offer to anyone who's not already bought in and on your side. It's more kind of like we're having a party for the Democrats. And a lot of people felt not invited to that party. And I mean, I could see that that's fair. Like there's not a lot of outreach. There's a lot of like kind of circle jerking. And it was, frankly, it was nice the first time in like, I mean, frankly, the first time since 2008 to have some kind of celebration, like positive sentiment. Like it was refreshing, but it was too little too late to catch on and did not have any outreach or cast a wide net. I think like, you know, it is good to have a brand and then push that brand that appeals to the in group. What that brand is, what that potential bucket is, should fit for a wider net that appeals to more people. It should, it really, really should hit for that. Like, you know, a pro-America thing, like a hard work thing that applies also to women and the LGBT community, but also to men. Like, I think there's a way to do that. But the Kamala campaign seemed disinterested in really catering to men at all. Instead, the Manosphere podcast slot pipeline was all over appealing to men and being like, hey, have you heard about fascism? And then now there's femicide is on the rise, by the way, which is specifically the targeted murder of women for being women. There are several cases as like for streamers and stuff. Yeah, it's really sad. And like streamers like girlfriends, just random women who live in people's neighborhoods and towns. Like the radicalization of young men to frankly support at this rate being drafted into a war where they'll die for no reason in Iran. That's the track we're on. It's really sad. But there's no alternative like open door thrown open to young men. Massive media investments weren't matched by equally robust or nope, sorry, not gonna read that. If it's highlighted, I'm not gonna read it. I'm sorry, I gotta be better at that. No evidence provided, no evidence provided. Okay, there's no evidence provided for these, but we'll see what these actual points are because these are the actual, like, you know, hypotheses and things to try, and like, we as a chat can discuss them. Male voters require direct engagement. I think that's true. I think also a lot of young men don't try very hard, especially to like build social connection, to outreach. Even like house chores, a lot of men get by and kind of just doing their thing and then like sitting back, right? I think maybe a strategy that is more like putting it in their face, like reaching out, presenting to them, would help. Like more outreach on YouTube as opposed to like TikTok and Instagram. You know, like more content that would like fit into the algorithms and be hand delivered a little bit. Like we need to count less on active airing from young men. I have kind of low standards. I'm also a lesbian, so like I am not going to have. I'm going to be mean on this. I'm sorry. Just take that into account. You don't have to agree with me. The rural strategy is mathematically indefensible. Compete everywhere. Limiting losses matters. Recruit candidates with rural credibility and show up. Yeah, okay. I think that's true. Like, there's enough Americans that are rural now, especially in the census, as we're seeing things diffuse to red states. We need to be able to prepare. Like, we need to prepare to run in rural areas, and it should be easy to do and worth doing. That's like a new front of ideas. Yeah. Anti-Trump sentiment has limits. That's true. Yeah. In fairness, if you look at like any social media data, being anti-Trump, especially considering like what Donald Trump is as a so-called person, being anti-Trump has pretty widespread appeal and support. There's a lot to hate there. There's a lot of like reasonable, legitimate disgust that a lot of people can agree on and is itself enough to mobilize a lot of people and piss a lot of people off. I'm sorry, but that's true. Anti-Trump sentiment can get you like 80% of the way there. The other, maybe bigger reason to move on from just anti-Trump sentiment alone, it's not quite enough. And also, Trump is old and not going to physically be able to keep running campaigns from hell. You know, so time to maybe move on and start to have a backup plan and make the backup plan the primary plan now. Because we basically might get one cycle of still getting to ride off of some anti-Trump sentiment as like a booster, but it can't be the sole strategy. Irregular voters are swing voters. They need mobilization and persuasion. Year-round engagement matters more than October GOTV. Definition is essential. Voters need to know what you'll do and why you're running. Clear accomplishments and concrete plans matter more than vibes. I'm going to disagree here. I think that vibes are okay. Donald Trump campaigned on vibes in 2024 and won. The vibe was an implication of fire and brimstone revenge to his base, and an implication unsupported by any specific policies besides no tax on tips, which is not even like a thing, of like, you know, implication of affordability to others. But it was mainly just his like hatred. He didn't really bother campaigning or having a strategy or a platform at all. Like, what did Donald Trump run on? So I don't know. Maybe the left needs that. There's a relative higher standard, which does not surprise me. But yeah, I don't know. I also think that there is so much potential in having like DSA members and Democrats work together and collab on some like think tanky focus group stuff because DSA types tend to have very hyper specific policies, but they do freak a lot of people out and alienate them, and they don't win. Like it's just the facts of the matter. I do think there's good substance. It's just the wrong labeling and presentation. That's like, appeals to an in-group. It's kind of like the Fandomy way, and just needs to like, okay, how can we package this that like some, moderate boomer in a rural area would like it. I think they could do some focus grouping and some testing there. Like there's a useful collaboration on building like a new concrete platform for Democrats and a new pitch for the Democrats. And I'm using Democrat really as a shell. Like what we consider to be establishment Democrats is one small and shrinking ideological faction that frankly dies with Chuck Schumer, as far as I'm concerned. Like evolutionarily, I'm not afraid of them as a threat anymore. In 2016, definitely they were in power. There have since been internal party reforms, and a lot of them are losing because they stand for nothing. Being a grassroots candidate alone is a huge boost to support and trustworthiness. Being funded by massive PACs means people will just hate you and not vote for you and anti-campaign against you on the face of it. Like it's just being, oh, you're an establishment. Like it's not really a divide anymore that voters see meaningfully. And part of it is because the establishment is deservedly and overdue, but going extinct. And yes, anyone who technically is in a seat of power is the establishment, but like we mean something specific by that. I just think they're rapidly becoming the minority. Like even someone more centrist, like Abigail Spanberger, it's just been like, rapid fire, like doing a bunch of stuff I would consider to be pretty progressive. It's all just kind of a branding thing. It's not like a deeper factional divide anymore. Okay. This is a restate. This is self-plagiarism. Used pluses, which is less professional. This is literally what I said above. Strong urban, competitive suburbs, limited rural losses. You need all three. Weird. Even this could say, don't neglect rural areas. Would be better, right? Like, I'm not, like, there's no one planning to be like, oh, let's give up on cities. And cities like you by default. Like, what is a rural vision? Okay, Latino voters shifted Republican nationally, but Democratic in North Carolina with the right candidate. Context and execution matter. North Carolina, again, was an exception case where Republicans had an exceptionally wrong candidate. He was very transparently racist well before the election, and all of momentum very publicly died. So that's not really a good example. And obviously would scare racial minorities when one guy is very clearly and irrefutably racist. There's this interesting divide I've noticed. I'm trying to learn more about this because I'm white, right? But like, when it comes to immigration, first of all, Latino voters get really underestimated by the Democratic establishment and party. Because we think, oh yeah, they're not white, they're a racial minority, so obviously Democrats are better for their interests. Well, that is true because Republicans are genuinely racist, and despite what they say, they just will tear everyone in society apart until there's only white people. And then, as notice my curly red hair, I'm kind of Irish. I'm next, by the way. Once they get rid of all the racial minorities and it's just white people, then they go to the Irish. That's what they did before, right? It's all just, bigotry is just a constant, like, line, it's like a stack. They'll just put new stuff on it over time as they learn about new types of people. Currently, they hate trans people. They haven't learned about non-binary people yet, but the bigotry is going to backfire. But we need more than just being like, wow, don't you see they're bigoted? But what I know of is like there's a divide where Latino communities and families are very traditionalist, very Catholic on average, very multi-generational and connected with families, and like hard work is a value, very obviously. And so they lean culturally more conservative than Democrats give them credit for. In addition to that, when it comes to immigration, anyone who has successfully gone through a legal immigration process, that is such a hard achievement that feels earned and hard fought. And there's a very reasonable sense of like, I deserve credit for that, for doing it right and doing a thing right. And it feels unfair to just give someone else a pass for not doing the thing I know that can be done and I have done. I do think, we need immigration reform. It should be much easier than it is now. But like, there is a sense of even like technically like legal immigrants will be very personally anti-illegal immigrant because it's seen as like I earned this, you didn't kind of thing. And there's like a subcultural dimension there that like Democrats have just blatantly not factored into electoral calculations. That's something I learned, and I'm going to keep learning because I think that's cool. And it's sad. And I think immigration reform, something that might be better. I don't know. That's a complicated topic. But yeah, no, that was like very much underestimated. And even just also the sense that I think a lot of people have this is selfish, like very modern information age. I'm special. I'm built different. Like, there's not a personal connection there. Even like white Americans are like, yeah, he's gonna, own the libs and destroy America. And then they're like, but you're an American, and then life gets harder and like, what? How could this happen? I didn't think it would be me. Like, I think everyone kind of does that. Um, yeah. So it's just kind of pathetic. So, but whatever. A lot of these games have wildly swung back after seeing the horrors of ICE, not only among Latino voters, but among white voters, right? Because having ICE storm through the suburbs with guns and then shoot a veteran who's a nurse, and they shot a veteran. How do I put this? He was a white man, right? Alex Pretty was like a white passing man, which means he counts as a person in the eyes of conservatives. And he was a veteran expressing his Second Amendment rights, which means he's an oppressed minority in their eyes. That's literally it. That's why that was a tipping point. But yeah, no, a lot of like just seeing the absolute clusterfuck bungling of ICE horrors in the street. That should not be like now. Abolish ICE, which would have been like a radical far left unpopular position maybe like a decade ago. Abolish ICE, I think, could very reasonably pass into a national democratic platform, and like a lot of people would be like, yeah, go for it. Even though like abolish the police is like, um, alienated a lot of people. Like you just look at the numbers, like 3 people, because it's just not explain all the context. I think abolish ICE might find more success than defund the police. So yeah, so this is outdated, and part of this, keep in mind, right? This whole autopsy took like a fucking year to do. So even by the time we got this, like a lot of this is already like not a super big concern. Obviously, we should keep trying outreach into racial minority communities. Very, very, very important. I'm really terrified that the Democrats in 2028 will appeal too much to white men and neglect Black Americans, who have been the backbone and lifeblood of the Democratic Party, kind of as long as we've been the Liberal Party, and really showed out for Kamala Harris in 2024. And I'm really worried if there's a middle finger to Black people, especially Black women, we're going to see a collapse of what is otherwise considered and presumed to be the most reliable voting bloc for the Democratic Party. I think Black women did everything right and put in all the work and were burned hard. And I really want that to not be taken for granted and ignored. Because I think there are going to be bigger consequential waves that no one's talking about. Okay, voters are sophisticated. The 8 to 10% who split tickets are decisive. They evaluate candidates individually. Same challenges, different responses. Young voters, men, voters of color, and irregular voters all trended Republican compared to 2020. The difference was how campaigns responded. No evidence for these claims. Okay. The bottom line. Oh, it's not actually a short, succinct summary. It's an extrapolation and more rambling. Cool. No methodology provided. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is turning out into one of the least productive documents to read. I was excited. I was like, oh, we're going to read more little blog posts and stuff for a few days on like people's personal opinions on an autopsy. This is the official Democratic one. I was hoping this would be the big juicy one. This is the most useless, inefficient slop. Like there's so few takeaways. What the campaign said, personal brands still matter. Okay. Source provided. All right. So I'm going to read through this first and then just say out loud the useful takeaways. I'm really not impressed by this. Because I'm just like, wow, they tried, but the Democrats still got blown out by Trump and Republicans. Because inflation was bad. And everyone was antisocial through COVID, and being antisocial through COVID, and we all turned to our phones and TVs. And we got way more radicalized by social media pipelines and like alternative media bubbles. We're really I think so much of this is genuinely just a media and communication problem. Okay. Year-round presence. Yes, okay. Well, I don't want to source for this. Year-round presence, community-based organizing. It works in Latino and working class neighborhoods. That's awesome. Member-to-member outreach, bilingual and culturally competent. This is something, okay, I'm going to say these parts because this is something I also saw in the more legitimate DNC playbook, which I guess we're going to be reading again, because my bad, Ken Martin. I was not familiar with your game. You did a way better job than this dipshit did. But there was a big thing on, like, if we actually do want to reach out to minorities, there are different, like, Spanish news channels and podcasts and radio shows. It's a whole different media infrastructure that's very separate, and currently is full of, apparently, this was news to me. I'm white. There's a lot of, like, cultural conservatism there. Not all the voices. It's like its own separate, like, dimension, right? Of, like, conversation and people and things people are talking about, conversations. If we can get in there, we have some awesome Spanish speaking, like, influencers, hosts, guests, representatives getting into the spaces. That is like a whole, like, walled community that doesn't know there's another option. They're only hearing conservative talking points. Oh no. This guy sent a Google link? Yeah, why wouldn't he just send the article? Why did this guy link to a Google redirect to an article instead of just linking the article? Is he stupid? He didn't check this at all. Also, one of his case studies is a guy who did everything right and still lost. And he hasn't provided solid numbers on, like, well, he still moved the needle a lot anyway. He's just, wow, here's my case study of an example we should learn from. This guy flopped. Anyway. The leadership to voter gap, okay? The people who split their tickets. The credibility gap between organizational leadership and everyday voters have widened. Why does this guy think the gap is widened? This is the guy who's in the organization gave money to and a project to, and he has no credibility. He's making shit up. He's not citing any sources. He's rambling. Look in the fucking mirror. We can find the credibility gap. Late engagement. Yeah. Important. Messaging misalignment. Is anything more specific? Anything juicier? Climate change and green energy transition messaging created anxiety among workers in traditional industries worried about job losses. Okay, that's something. I think it's really possible to, because energy, right, and climate are considered, and environmentalism, left-wing positions and issues that rally the base, but don't seem to, like, are opposed to or people don't care about on the outside. Lots of right-wing working class people care about jobs and, like, hard work, and have lost a lot of jobs in industry. I don't understand. I really, truly do not understand if there's a reason for this geographically where we can build stuff. Why are Democrats not running on, like, hey, we're going to create all of the clean new energy programs and put them in the Rust Belt? You guys were, like, you know, I'm from Pennsylvania originally, like, you guys were, like, our coal miners, right? You were experts at the industry at the energy of yesterday. We want you guys, given that history, to be our energy leaders of tomorrow. So if we have a factory to build solar panels, we should prioritize putting that in Pennsylvania, like, where those jobs used to be. And you guys can be, like, you know, still work and build some energy, but in a way that's going to, you know, not give you lung cancer. And it's going to give you new jobs. It's different jobs, but it's still, like, factory jobs as opposed to mining jobs. Wouldn't that make sense? Because you have to put them somewhere anyway. Some countries, some states or communities are going to get those jobs anyway. Wouldn't that seem so fair and, like, make sense at a national level? Wouldn't that be seen as such a love letter to the neglected heartland and Rust Belt and, like, the South, the Deep South, to be like, hey, we need to put this somewhere anyway and create new jobs and new infrastructure, build new stuff, like build windmills, even if the windmills have to go up on the coasts. Wouldn't that, doesn't that make sense? Like, can't we connect job creation and green energy? Can we plug those into each other? That seems so, what am I missing here? Is there a reason for that? Like, I'm not a CEO of a manufacturing company, so I don't know if there's a reason that doesn't happen. But to me, that's, like, the easiest W. Do it at least within, like, driving distance of the Rust Belt towns, or, like, in the Midwest, like, you know, rural, like, we can rebuild labor. Because even if you just create jobs in rural areas, then you create, like, labor and union, like, groups, and that literally gives back political power to the left. It's because it turns into a workers' rights thing. Like you can literally create the communities that will vote for you. Um, and that's the thing. Also, yeah, when like Biden also tried to do some energy infrastructure stuff, and just let Republicans take credit for it, even though they were shitting on it the entire time, and that's not fair. We can't let that happen. We need to put in those like if we're doing that, just gotta put up a sign that says the Democrats did this, because guess what? When Donald Trump came into office, he made them put up signs on all of the Biden infrastructure projects with Donald Trump's name on them. Completely thrown. Pathetic. And you know what? I think there's some bargaining power there. If red states, if red towns need the money, need the jobs, need the opportunities, need the energy, I think there's enough bargaining power there to be like, hey, put up a sign and say which administration did this. I can't believe we're throwing this. I can't believe, yeah, they took, the Republicans shat on us the entire time and took all of the credit for what was like the groundwork for like, some of the most progressive policy we've seen in our lifetime. It's one of the most bipartisan W's. I can't believe that. Like, how did that happen? Republican inroads with working class voters. Trump's campaign targeted working class households with economic populist messaging. His anti-worker record. What? We're missing some words again? This guy did not even finish his sentence again. Sorry, it's not on me. Working class men, particularly in manufacturing and construction, so Trump is more aligned with their cultural values than Democratic candidates. Where is labor? God damn it. Where is labor? Hello? Like, I want to put the scrawniest, privileged Northern City College white boy Marxist-Leninist with the full fucking t-shirt in a room with an establishment Democrat leader and a conservative construction worker. And we're going to lock the door in that room until all three of them come out of that room in the same coalition on the same page. And that policy is what we're going to do. I changed my mind. We need one of them to be a woman, because otherwise their policy is going to be stripping women's rights. But like, these ideas should not be in opposition to each other. It's the economy, stupid. It's socialism, stupid. Just thread this. How are we letting this go away? Because also, their answers aren't good. Their economic populist messaging is just hating the Jews and like however many words they need to say to, to pass terms of service. Shrinking investment in industrial states. Yeah. Reduce our organizing capacity. Yeah. Manufacturing. Manufacturing is so good. It's such a W. Because a lot of Americans don't want like a handout, like it feels wrong or feels like they failed their social duty. But invest in job creation, industrial job creation in red states. Make sure you get the credit. Then you create jobs in communities, you create wealth for poor people who need it because they have good jobs. And then you have also, just with that, rebuild communities, rebuild families, and rebuild labor as a power source that has some political agenda they can attribute to the right thing. Because currently what's happening, and like I've seen, it's really upsetting, is Democrats just assume labor is still left-leaning. Democrats have not done any direct communication with labor reserves in a long time. There's no like union efforts, It's not really. We lost that. We lost what's the big union that we lost because they went for Trump? They endorsed Trump. I forget their name. Sorry, someone's gonna remember the name. What happened there? What I swear happens there is all these guys are like in their trucks driving to and from work, and they're just listening to Joe Rogan. And individually, like 2/3 of them are just deciding to blame the Democrats and then voting to like destroy their own jobs and wages. It's so fucking stupid. Yeah, UW, yeah. Teamsters, yeah. Okay, the Slatkin team worked to minimize job losses in working class communities. She emphasized her support for manufacturing jobs, made explicit commitments about protecting the auto industry. While she still lost some working class voters, she ran significantly better than Harris among the same demographic. Yeah, like how much is this just creating working class jobs? How much is it, genuinely? Localization beat nationalization. Okay, no backing for these claims. The problem is too, despite our differences, I think a lot of communities are more similar than we think. You can virtue signal a little bit. I know Mary Peltola, who's running as a Democrat in Alaska and winning, does virtue signal about fish a lot because that's like what you do in Alaska, and that's cute. But like, I think the underlying concerns are genuinely more universal than we give them credit for. I think it's a very outdated 20th century way of thinking that we treat states as like these wholly separate, different alien things. It's like, I'm sorry, everyone everywhere just like needs to eat and sleep and wants to feel useful. Like I don't know. It's a weird fixation. GOP messaging is so good they don't even have to follow through. That is so true. They don't follow through at all. They're just blatantly saying like they don't care anymore. They're not releasing the Epstein files. Sorry, get fucked. They don't. I'm sorry. They don't say sorry. Has Donald Trump ever said sorry in his life? Ever? Round focused on standing up to China, fighting for good jobs, and his history of bipartisanship. His campaign produced ads showing him in manufacturing communities and at community events. Specific and visceral reminders of his decades fighting for Ohio. This is something we saw in the really good article that was submitted to the Bulwark by the person in charge of digital on the Harris campaign. There's so much to gain from literally just recording a candidate doing stuff and helping their communities, and then just clip it and ship it. Make ads out of that. Make that your B-roll. Make that your TikToks, and then do a voiceover or put words on screen, or just show the clips. Show you just get caught helping. Get caught giving a fuck. Don't get caught talking about like, oh, we gotta save democracy. It's too abstract. It wasn't enough to win, but he outperformed here significantly. Even like Joe Biden did win on a more like at-home campaign, just talking about big virtues like democracy. But people were just kind of more so hated Trump anyway, and it was COVID, so no one was going outside doing anything. Just go outside and do stuff. Get caught helping. Latino voter shift. No evidence provided. See, even right here, this is just a lot of data. It's a lot of raw data. It's just, this is what happened in this state. This is what happened in this state. It's not a lot of the why. All of this needs whys and interviews and a summary of like, but what actually happened here? And all the data you see about like racial minority groups especially being like, yeah, we're just taken for granted as a token. This is why, because they're just being talked about. There's no like, did they ask a bunch of Latino men, young Latino men, why they voted a certain way? Is that a different reason than why young white men voted that way? Who did they talk to? What is the why? This is being seen as so abstract. We're not even talking to people who speak Spanish? What the fuck? Do that. Yeah, the data isn't information on its own. And there's no effort in this document to go beyond just raw numbers and like fun fact data, right? I'm not seeing any effort to do user interviews, the more qualitative data you need, and to then draw conclusions from that specifically. This guy's just reading the tea leaves. Ohio's manufacturing communities swung right. Yeah. Okay, well, what did we do for Ohio's manufacturing community? Like, genuinely, what is their incentive there? What do we think that they heard and saw? And so what do they do? This is design. I've done a lot of this in like digital media stuff, and a lot of this in like apps and things, in games. It's a lot of like, we can look at this. Yeah, there's some coalition between parties where it shouldn't be. I want an oppositional party. I want a confidently oppositional party. Like, I'm gonna put it this way. Democratic Party should appeal to Republican voters in a way to make them Democratic voters. Their Democratic Party should not appeal to the Republican Party. Does that make sense? When Trump's not on the ballot, okay. Historical pattern is clear. Trump drives turnout in ways that help him, but don't always help other Republicans. Yeah, that's true. If you've seen any of the pictures of like fundraising emails for Trump, like, it's very clear to me. Donald Trump has a special bonus demographic of voters that don't show up for anyone else because they're just parasocial lead poisoned boomers who think that Donald Trump is their best friend and talks to them personally. These are the people who then get screwed over by his policies and then are begging to him in Truth Social replies, why doesn't he help them? And they genuinely think he is reading those tweets and like will do something for them. Genuinely, it's wild to me. But we like can't freak out about it too much because those voters go with him. Unless he makes Donald Trump Jr. his heir, those are people who will never vote for anyone else ever again. None of that carries over to any other Republicans down ballot, or you know, any other elections. Like they only show up for him. There are people who will show up to elections and they'll literally just bubble in Donald Trump for president and then leave the rest of the ballot blank. It's significant. It's significant. Like it's not even like there's like super involved, like higher information voters. There's lower information voters who are more casual. Donald Trump has a special block of no information voters that no one else has. And part of that is because Donald Trump has embedded himself not into political culture, not as a political candidate, but as a pop cultural figure since the 80s. He started campaigning 40 years ago. And God forbid someone like Gavin Newsom, you don't have to like Gavin Newsom. God forbid Gavin Newsom try anything like ahead of 2028. They're like, but we haven't even had like what? You got to get started yesterday, Make yourself known and popular and liked and do something. Be known for something. Democrats pay for seasonal access to the network, stations, platforms, and newspapers of Republicans running entities. Yeah, Republicans own and Democrats rent. This is very true. Whether it's traditional media, alternative media, or social media, Republicans have it and Democrats go on it. It's pathetic. Frankly, if they want to do a bottom up, like build a bunch of like social media creators into like a more stable podcast network, into like maybe then eventually they could start like forming like new kind of alternative like news networks things, kind of like what the Young Turk is meant to be, but not actually an op factory, trying to pull people to vote Republican, which they've done since Dave Rubin, and they just released new models ever since. Anna Kasparian is a major anti-Semitic turf, and a racist, but we need to build something like that from the bottom up again, like for the left. Like it would be really easy. Democrats need to start building, and not just renting access to that, and that starts genuinely with finding social media creators like me. Start small and cheap at that low level, and then network us and start building up from there. Democrats start with this like very astroturf looking like, oh, we're gonna talk to NBC News, and it's no one trusts that. Have NBC News report on where the heat is. Like genuinely, someone like Adam Mockler or Dean Withers should be given the funding to do like what the Daily Wire did with Ben Shapiro, right? Like start a company there. Have these like, landmark, like pull from the bottom up, build up more legitimate looking operations for the left. Because the right wing gets to do this circuit on like friendly podcasts all over, and the left does not have any such infrastructure. It's dangerous. Even Ken Martin himself, the DNC chair, went on Pod TV America and got like roasted. There's no safe spaces for like Democrats of any variety, from moderate to far, far, far left progressive, where you could only win in like Seattle, or Hawaii. There's nowhere you can go and have a friendly chat where you talk about how cool your policies are. And there should be. Instead, you will get litmus tested to hell. Usually on a single issue. Like these days, it's really just Gaza. Not like even in a actually save Palestinians practically way, but in a like, do you want to genocide Israel now kind of way. In a way that's constructed so like there is no feasible policy you could offer that feels satisfying enough. And I've seen like DSA candidates get jumped by like left media, which is tragic. Because I want them to win. If they have good policies, that'll help people. I want them to win. Like I want to have pro-friendly spaces where we can talk about like, hey, we all want better healthcare. What are the different policies for that? And let's talk about that and talk about how cool that is and what we can do now to improve healthcare anywhere in any way. And when you have those spaces, by the way, the most progressive policies are going to float to the top because they're the best. We need to have those conversations. Like there is no alternative. Like people like Republicans get to shoot the shit with Joe Rogan all the time and then come out of it looking great. Democrats get judged, whether we go on right wing sources, center sources, left sources. It's just down. It's never up. Given the relevance these platforms have in culture, Democrats cannot abandon all of them. Yeah, like we can't just run away, but we don't have somewhere else to go. Like the best case scenario for Democrats is begging to go on Joe Rogan, and then just like having to either entertain Joe Rogan conspiring about like his anti-science conspiracies on health and wellness, or to challenge him and then get roasted and doxxed by fascists. That's really the only options there. Modern marketing is different. Traditional approach of paying for media to dominate share of voice or attention is far less effective in the context of how information now moves and the ways people consume or seek information and content. Money can leverage reach, but not salience. That's true. An environment designed for shareable media, where algorithmic lift drives traffic and engagement, virality can easily surpass the reach and impact of legacy media spending. And I think that's the goal, especially with young voters, and how we build the next generation of Gen Z and Gen Alpha, like actual people who will be volunteers and activists and can evolve, no matter what you care about. Like that's good. Achieve something. It's not about being shown like legacy ads, because they all have ad blocker anyway. Young people have ad blocker because it's hell otherwise. But it's a matter of giving people a reason to authentically care. And once you hit that threshold of authentically caring, people will turn out for free to give every bit of energy they have. But we need a reason to care, for real. And there hasn't been one for most establishment beliefs, just this assumption of lending support. 10 years ago, a candidate would launch with an op-ed, a press release, or a rally, followed by careful media management, some barnstorming, and a raft of early endorsements and fundraising events. Other than races for president, or when a celebrity or scion sought office, those moments generally stayed in state or in district. Down-ballot campaigns struggled to even get mention in statewide media, and it was usually only the insider class within those markets, or staff at national campaign committees who paid attention. Today, many campaigns launch online, some with announcement videos designed to capture the attention of a national audience of grassroots donors and activists. Small and repeat donations can power campaigns to record fundraising. Yet, even in national campaigns, these efforts can be ineffective. For many of the candidates seeking the 2020 nomination, for example, the launch was the best day of their campaign. The tactic is an indicator of the changing ways information moves, ways opinions about viability are formed, and the way voters are engaged. So the problem is, okay, social media, think of social media like it's day of. Anything you post on social media lives for a day and then dies by tomorrow. That's how it's supposed to go. It's a new system. It's a different system than traditional media. It's just day of attention. What Mamdani did is people associate with Mamdani with the word affordability. Mamdani didn't really run ads about affordability. He ran ads on specific things like buses, or like grocery stores, right? Like just individual specific policies. And those were his daily bites of information. But it built to a broader, lasting beyond the day, implied narrative of like he's a member of the community who cares, and New Yorkers should be able to afford New York. That's awesome. Yeah, quotes aren't policy or no stuff. That's true. Yeah. But like he was able to like use his policies as like building blocks and have a full platform, and then give people an overall transcendent and itself alive and lasting sense, a communicated sense of a brand that went beyond any viral post. And to these days, even lots of these social media types will like think, oh, does our post go viral? And not realize it's not about one post. If you live and die by a single post, you're dead. You've already lost. You need to like just keep throwing posts at the wall until you have like a built presence and platform. And really, what is that presence and platform? Like, what's the idea there? So why do campaigns, both Democrats and Republicans, still plow billions in legacy media? The problem is because older people just have the TV on in a sports bar and they don't like play on their phones. They're not on social media. Is it because it's there? Democrats change to engage in the new media ecosystem to win attention, to win votes? The fundamentals have changed. It's no longer enough for campaigns to push information out. They have to pull people in, and digital and social platforms are tools designed for this engagement. Yeah, I mean, if you can, like, The big thing of social media is you want to throw it enough, people have a sense of you enough, that they like you enough, that they will actually turn out and volunteer for you and start talking about you organically and share you to your friends, to their friends, and their neighbors and their family. And that's how you start to build that up. The 2024 presidential campaign. Okay, more just trivia. More fucking trivia. Jesus. More just like number, data, fact slop, and less leading with a thesis. Yeah, they spent majority on broadcasting cable ads. Wow. Your victory funds. Spend exclusively in digital ads. Okay. No evidence provided. We're going to skip it. Just a factual error. Per campaign finance law, victory funds that are joint fundraising committees are only permitted to run advertising with a fundraising component. So this guy's whole analysis is based on he doesn't know what this is. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Incredible. Useless slop. Where is the content? I want something useful. When presidential ad spending by party and channel, no sourcing provided. So we're gonna skip this graph. Genuinely though, overall, it looks like from this, but we don't have proof for this. It looks like Democrats spent more money on everything. Where's the difference? Democrats spent more money on digital stuff, but Democrats wasted their money on digital stuff. They didn't build authentic digital presence. Democrats had less digital presence. I will guarantee that. Overcharging, like overspending for like some way too scripted shit or like podcast appearances does not count to me as having, wow, we had more digital presence than them. Like they just spent money stupider. They did not spend on more stuff or better stuff. You can't from spending numbers alone. Even if these were backed up or sourced, you can't draw conclusions from that. Republicans spend more on satellite. Yeah, because I have very old promoters. Okay. No sourcing provided. Cool. Why are these grouped in like that? It's so weird. This is an embarrassing. Methodology unclear. No sourcing provided. Methodology unclear. No sourcing provided. Jesus Christ. Also, I'm sorry. Even if you did have data, this is not useful. This is not useful. If this is the kind of thing you're looking into, like, why are you investing time in research? If your research turns up a graph where, wow, there's not really a difference in what we're doing here, you're not getting anything from this. This does not tell you anything. Like, you're not seeing a comparative difference that is in any way expressed or contextualized or translates to anything. If everyone's doing the same stuff, this is the wrong factor to focus on. It's merely a control. And yeah, why did he focus on these races? Why? You're summing up certain districts to give you some numbers on something, but why? Is that representative of all races, or are you cherry picking? What are you cherry picking for? No sourcing provided, no sourcing provided. These are ugly as sin, too. This is not like they're using different colors, different graphs. This is embarrassing. The Democratic Party is definitely in dire straits, so this is the kind of asset they're getting back. This is some real low quality stuff here. All of this, I know it like looks like full pages of text. I'm sorry, I'm just scrolling through. All of this comes down genuinely to just like numbers and data and just trivia, but there's no organization. Is all of this just to say we should spend more on digital, like new media ads? I also prefer terms like new media to digital. It's weird that they use digital. I've noticed a lot of Democratic establishment use digital. And I think it's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how things are. New media or social media is a really clear category in people's heads. And already just talking about like TikToks or long form video versus podcasts. Like these are all different things that hit different audiences in different ways. Let's see. So it seems like Democrats spent a little more on like digital, and Republicans spent a little more on cable. But why do I care? Why do I care? Why do I care? What difference does it make? Why? Why? What does it mean? I've never seen a document so useless. I'm just going to keep on scrolling through this. Now it's just going through specific states for no reason. The data does not line up with what they're even saying here, so this is all useless. 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 Okay. Always late versus always on. Wow, not only is there no sourcing provided, but public reporting contradicts the underlying assumptions. This whole section is just toxic. We can't even read it. It's not worth it. I don't want to poison myself with misinformation. And it seems like this is misinformation. Wait, hang on. Is he talking about, this is so poorly written too. The Ohio Democratic Party made this case for years and did better than many of their counterparts in other states in terms of raising money and organizing. What's weird here is like what the case should be should lead in the first sentence, so each paragraph is self-explanatory and self-contained. However, eventually the drag of the national party campaign became too much for even Sherrod Brown to overcome. In a world or state where significant investment flows more frequently than once every 6 years, is Sherrod Brown still a senator? Could Democrats have won one of the narrowly decided contests in 2018? The party received strategic support in 2012 through 2018. And a lot of this comes down to basically, all this really means is not even do something different. It's just, hey, what if we had more money? What if we had more money? We just kept running more ads or like had more involvement, more people doing stuff more. No shit. But for whatever amount of money we have, whether that's a lot or a little, how should we be using it? When and where and why? Right? And then we can proportion that to however much money we actually have. Ideally, it'd be fully fund everything and every opportunity. But if we only had half the budget, where should we be putting that? What types of ads? What types of activism and volunteerism should we be like prioritizing? What types of organizing? What types of what and where and when and why? And then like we can proportion our funding to that. But just, hey, what if we just kept throwing money at Ohio nonstop for 6 years? Could that have helped? Maybe. We don't know. It's like this is nothing. The permanent campaign chair Martin. Wouldn't campaign chair be the title? Wouldn't you also want to capitalize this? Or just not capitalize this? That's weird. I just think that he's talking about Ken Martin here, and that's why I'm curious. Has proposed include the permanent campaign chair Martin has proposed. Oh, sorry. No, he's talking about a campaign. It's so badly written. The permanent campaign that Chair Martin has proposed includes dedicated communications infrastructure, working through the DNC, ASDC, and state parties in coordination with party committees, candidates, and partners. These investments will provide the research, training, and resources needed to drive our message and support our candidates across the ticket. Still nothing. Just what if we had more people doing more stuff and working together all the time and we had more money to do it? That's great. It's nothing. It's nothing. This is slop. As funders evaluate where to invest, they should question whether recent approaches have worked. I am of the opinion at this point in time, we need some of the new social welfare programs. We need to reorganize our government around spending and building. We need to give some help to Mr. Rivera here. This is someone who genuinely may have an intellectual disability. And frankly, we need to investigate. Talking about someone who is an unqualified hire on the basis of their identity, I think just being a man who is Ken Martin's friend, this is a corrupt hire. This is a man who is just physiologically, intellectually, not up to the task he was given. And this is a pathetic, pathetic waste of time and money. None of this is organized or worth anything. It's not even something you could hand to someone else and say, make another pass of this. It's just like this, your eyes glaze over reading this. It's all just worthless. It's so bad. It's all just this like slop. Because what if we did more of everything? And just it's not organized. You can't even like read this. There's no hierarchy here. This is like the worst of all the facts, of all the things I have looked at. Of all the things I have pulled together, all the sources I've looked into. This is the least useful. It's the least organized. It's the least to say. It's by far the biggest, slowest, and most expensive. And that's why no one trusts the Democratic Party. Because everyone who's actually doing something useful is just like one person or a small org on the ground running circles around this. And doing more, better with less. Evidence provided contradicts public reporting, but saying, yeah, wow. A lot of right-wing pro-MAGA accounts are actually create and managed and are managed in Russia. Shouldn't it say are created and managed in Russia? Take out actually, it's an adverb. Created should be past tense. And you don't need are managed, just say managed. Russia, Eastern Europe, like as if it's a place, just capitalize Eastern Europe, and other non-American locations. Jesus Christ. I want a chart like of this. If this is relevant and significant, make a chart of this. Show me the breakdown by area and where these accounts are coming from and what each of them say by different place, right? You could do that so easily. Throughout American history, extreme views have temporarily bubbled up to shape public discourse. Oh my goodness. This is one of the worst things I've ever read. Is there anything in here? Is my blood sugar crashing, or is it just actually going insane reading this? I'm gonna need to stop and get food. This is so useless. Am I gonna give up on page 57? The early pages were easy because they were just saying, like, you know, insert a summary here. Why did they write this? All is fair in love, war, and politics. And yes, Democrats have made investments in Republican primaries, seeking M- for no reason, seeking to shape general election matchups. The difference is, right-wing interests take a longer-term approach and amplify polarizing messaging and candidates within the Democratic family, and with the intention of othering all Democrats. Without aggressive pushback and tactics, it works. Whoa, this is what we're spending our money on. I can't fucking imagine why. I am so pissed. All screens are not the same. No source material or data provided. Unsourced claims cannot be independently verified. I'm sorry. I really thought this would be such a useful, interesting document to dive into. I'm like a quarter of the way through, somewhere between there. I'll get to page 60. I'll do one more page. But I'm going to tap out of this stream. I'm giving up. This is so bad. This is so bad. I genuinely want to feed this to AI and say, hey, could you give me an executive summary of this? But any claim it makes is unsourced, not concise, not presented at all in any meaningful way. It's just bad. It's so bad. What? What? Like, none of this is backed up. Like, none of this is worth paying attention to or respecting. Because it's just a guy shooting the shit. And not even a guy with a particularly strong or developed opinion. Like, I'm just listening to like any podcast of two white boys. And he's just going on and on and on in just like walls of text. Oh my God. It's so bad. I've lost it. Like right now he's even talking supposedly, allegedly, about problems in like different media channels, which should be my game. Like that's my thing. But it's nothing. It's so bad. It's page 59. This is our last page. Negative messaging. Voting is a choice. Negative messaging needs to be part of the story as choices are framed for voters. What? Am I going insane? Have I gone insane? Help me. Help me. I've lost it. Am I going insane? What is he saying? At times it seems Democrats are trying to win arguments while Republicans are focused on winning elections. Yeah. But can we get specific with this? None of this is usable. It's nothing. It's all nothing. It's all nothing. That's all I got in me, chat. Thank you for being here. I'm so sorry for what I put you all through. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. I understand why Ken Martin didn't release this. It should have been thrown in the trash. Farewell. Enjoy.